Picture this. You are hiking alone, somewhere cold, somewhere high. The air is thin, your legs ache, and then you see it. A shipwreck. Not near water, not near a river, not near anything that floats. You are standing thousands of feet above sea level on a mountain ridge, and there is a salt-crusted hull sitting in front of you like it has always been there. Does that sound impossible? It should, but it is real. And scientists have found exactly this: ancient vessels, marine fossils, and the preserved remains of ocean life resting in places where no ocean has any business being. So how did they get there? And what does it tell us about the world we think we know? Our planet looks stable, familiar. The mountains have always been mountains. The ocean has always been the ocean. But that is the great illusion. The Earth is not still. It never has been. Beneath your feet right now, enormous slabs of rock, some the size of entire continents, are grinding, colliding, and sliding past each other in a slow-motion war that has been raging for 4.5 billion years. And sometimes, just sometimes, that war leaves evidence behind that stops scientists cold. These are the stories of shipwrecks found where no ship should ever be. The stories of what happens when the ocean floor decides to become a mountain. And the story of a planet that is far more dramatic than any of us were taught in school. To understand how a ship ends up on a mountain, we first need to understand something about the ocean floor itself. The ocean floor is not just the bottom of the sea. It is a living, breathing geological machine. It is made of dense oceanic crust, heavier than continental crust, and it is constantly being created at underwater ridges, sliding sideways, and eventually diving back into the Earth at what geologists call subduction zones. But here is where things get interesting. When two tectonic plates collide, and one is pushed downward while the other rides up, the material that was once at the bottom of the sea can be scraped off, folded, and thrust upward. Slowly at first, then faster still over millions of years, until what was once ocean floor is now a mountain ridge. And everything that was sitting on that ocean floor, the sediment, the fossils, the ancient marine life, comes along for the ride. This process is called tectonic uplift, and it is one of the most powerful forces in nature. Now here is where the story gets truly strange. The most famous example in the world sits at over 29,000 feet above sea level. Mount Everest, the highest point on Earth, contains marine limestone near its very summit. Limestone packed with the fossilized remains of sea creatures that lived in a shallow tropical ocean hundreds of millions of years ago. Those creatures never left the sea. The sea left them, because the ground they lived on was slowly, relentlessly pushed upward by the collision of the Indian tectonic plate grinding into the Eurasian plate. A collision that is still happening today, still pushing Everest a few millimeters higher each year. But here is what makes the shipwreck cases different and far more recent. Along the coastlines of ancient civilizations, in the Mediterranean, in parts of the Middle East, and along certain mountain ranges in Europe and the Americas, researchers have discovered something that is harder to explain away. They have found the structural remains of wooden vessels, or the rock formations shaped by ancient maritime activity, sitting not at sea level, but well above it. Some of these are explained by dramatic sea level changes. In the last ice age, sea levels were more than 400 feet lower than they are today. Coastlines looked completely different. Ports, harbors, and the ships anchored in them occupied positions on the landscape that are now either deep underwater or in some cases due to land uplift, sitting above the current waterline. Think about that. The same planet went through an ice age that dropped global sea levels by over 400 feet, and then reversed, melting those glaciers and raising the ocean back up again. That alone could relocate a coastline by dozens of miles. But tectonic uplift and sea level change are only part of the equation. Because there is a third force, one that most people have never heard of, and it might be the strangest one of all. It is called isostatic rebound, and it happens when something enormously heavy is removed from the land. During the last ice age, massive glaciers, sheets of ice kilometers thick, sat on top of what is now Scandinavia, Canada, and parts of Northern Europe. The sheer weight of that ice compressed the ground beneath it, pushing it down into the Earth's mantle like a hand pressing into foam. When the ice melted, the weight was lifted. And slowly, over thousands of years, the land began to spring back up. We are talking about entire countries rising. Parts of Scandinavia are still rebounding today, lifting at measurable rates. Ancient Viking harbors that sat at sea level 1,000 years ago are now several feet above the waterline. So now imagine a ship left in a harbor, sunk in a bay, or abandoned at an ancient dock, and then the land itself rises around it, lifting it out of the water over centuries, bit by bit, until one day it is no longer a wreck under the sea. It is a wreck above it. This is where geology becomes philosophy. We tend to think of geography as fixed. We have maps. We have borders. We have coastlines that we assume have always looked this way. But the geological record tells a completely different story. The Mediterranean Sea has dried up completely, more than once. About 5.9 million years ago, the Strait of Gibraltar closed, cutting off the Atlantic, and the entire Mediterranean evaporated over thousands of years into a vast desert of salt flats, more than 3 kilometers below the surrounding land. Then the Atlantic broke through again in what geologists call the Zanclean flood, and the sea refilled in what may have been the largest waterfall in Earth's history. The Black Sea, some researchers believe, was once a freshwater lake before the Mediterranean broke through and flooded it in a catastrophic event. The Persian Gulf was dry land as recently as 15,000 years ago. When you understand all of this, when you see Earth's geography not as a snapshot but as a moving film, the idea of finding a shipwreck on a mountain stops being impossible. It becomes almost expected. Here is the thought that I want to leave in your mind. Right now, while you are watching this video, the Himalayas are still rising. The coast of Scandinavia is still lifting. The tectonic plates are still grinding. Sea levels are still shifting. The process that put marine fossils at the top of the world's highest mountain has not stopped. It will never stop. Which means that somewhere on Earth, right now, there is a coastline that will one day be a mountain. There is a harbor that will one day be a desert. There is a ship resting at the bottom of the sea that will one day, millions of years from now, sit exposed in the open air, baffling whatever creatures come after us. The Earth does not care about our maps. It is on its own timeline, ancient, relentless, and utterly indifferent to the civilizations that rise and fall on its surface. And all of these mountaintop mysteries, these impossible wrecks, these marine fossils at impossible altitudes, these ancient coastlines reborn as mountain ridges, they are the planet writing its own autobiography. And we are just now learning to read it. The next time you look at a mountain, really look at it, ask yourself what it used to be. Ask what is buried inside it. Ask what stories it is keeping. Because the mountains were not always mountains, and the sea was not always the sea. The world we live in is not the world as it was, and it is not the world as it will be. Everything moves, everything changes, and sometimes, if we look in the right places, the earth shows us exactly how far it has come. If this made you see the world a little differently today, that is what we are here for. Hit subscribe if you want more stories from the deep past of our planet. There are plenty more where this came from. And trust me, some of them are even stranger than this one.